I'm Mary Marshall, and my company is Marshall Advisors. I'm an executive coach and business advisor. And what that really means is that I get to be a part of entrepreneurs and help them grow their businesses. I've been an entrepreneur myself, I've been a CEO, and I've worked with hundreds of small businesses over the years, helping them expand and grow their businesses. And it's been a great ride. Well, that's an interesting question. And I teach a class down at the Small Business Administration for entrepreneurs. I've been doing that for about 6 years now. And we go through a 7-month period where they essentially create a growth plan, and it's all about expansion for their businesses. And so the first thing that we start with is the vision. Because a lot of companies want to grow, but they don't really know how. There's a number of different ways that they can grow, but the real question is, what is the best way? And so we go back to that vision and we say, okay, where are you today? And where is it that you want to be in 3 years from now? And what's the gap? And how are we going to get through that gap? And what's the first step about that? But you can create new locations, you can create a new product line, you can add people, but if they're not aligned with the vision that you originally have, it'll just end up in a lot of chaos and be very expensive for the business. When thinking about an expansion strategy, the people that you need on your team are, first of all, the leaders of the organization. All of the leaders of the organization, particularly the executive team, should all be involved in whatever plan that you're putting together, whatever strategy you might be using. Even if it doesn't directly affect their teams, they should know what's going on because it might affect their teams indirectly and you might not even know. So first of all, once the executive team is informed of whatever the plan might be, then you can determine which outside advisors you might want to have on the team. So if the plan has some specific financial needs or extensive financial needs, you're probably going to want somebody that has that type of experience, whether it's an investment banker, whether it's a traditional banker, or whether perhaps your outside accountant. You're going to want them on the team because they're going to be able to tell you how fast you can grow with the amount of money that you have or with the amount of money that you're going to be borrowing. So depending upon the nature of the expansion strategy, that's the type of person you're going to want. So for example, if it were you were going to be expanding into different regions, you're certainly going to need some help with what's going on in those regions. You're going to need to find a person that is familiar with those regions that can help you staff if that's what you're going to need to do, or find real estate if that's what you're going to need to do. But the advisors really depend upon the nature of the strategy, and then you want that very specific expertise that you can contract out. Additionally, you're going to want the executive team to know what's going on so that they can inform their teams. The one thing that they commonly overlook, and you'd think it would be a really obvious thing, is communication. So as I mentioned earlier, they need to inform their leaders. Well, they also need to inform the team what they're doing. And again, even if it doesn't affect them, they need to know what's going on. Because not only do they need to know what's going on, they need to know how it's going to affect them and what the expectations might be of them. So, for example, if the leadership of the organization knows what's going on as far as the expansion goes, but they haven't drilled that communication down throughout the team is going to make assumptions and guesses about what's going on. And then they're going to act on those assumptions and guesses, and they could potentially be working completely counter to the rest of the team, so thereby undermining whatever it is they're trying to achieve. So communication is probably the most important thing when considering an expansion strategy, because everybody needs to know, even if they're not doing anything. One of the challenges that you'll have going through any expansion strategy is people's fear of change. And people fear the change because they don't know what's on the outside. Now, if you've done a good job with communication, you've allayed some of those fears. But change management is hard in any organization, and an expansion strategy is, in fact, change. So, what you have to understand is that when you're taking any organization through change, you have to communicate with them all throughout the process about what's going on. And you actually have to prepare them for the fact that it's going to get bad, that it's going to be uncomfortable, and that there's going to be times when it's not going to go according to plan. And what happens is, when you get there, then you can remind them that, remember, we talked about this. Remember that we talked about how it was going to get bad and that we would kind of be in a pit and wonder why we even started this in the first place. And then you're going to give them a hand and you're going to pull them out of that pit. It's your classic sort of change management curve that you go down really deep before you actually get to pull yourself out. But you will get across that chasm and you will get to pull them out through the other side. And that's the piece that you have to continually tell them, is that even when it gets bad, I know that we will get through it and we will help you get through it, and you will make it. And we are going to get there. And you just have to keep reminding them of what the original vision was and the plan and the site and how great it's going to be once we get through the muck. It's kind of like, crossing a raging river. It's not very fun when you're in the middle of the river, but there is that other side, that other shore that eventually you will get to. Maybe not in the exact direct route that you thought to begin with, but you will get there. I have a business called Marshall Advisors, and you can find a lot of information about me and a lot of the things that I've written at my website at mary-marshall.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I blog weekly. And you can reach me at mary-marshall.com. But I've also written a couple of books, and the first book I wrote was The Entrepreneurial Puzzle, and it is available on Amazon. And it's basically 10 things that entrepreneurs need to know about. And having worked with entrepreneurs for over 25 years, I got sort of tired of talking about it, so I just put it in a book in 10 easy chapters. And then a book I'm working on right now, which will be out in the fall, is called The Great Culture Disconnect. And it's all about creating cultures and businesses that work and that actually allow you to expand.